The family of little Olivia Pratt-Korbel, who was shot in her home in Liverpool by a masked gunman, have appealed for people to do the right thing to help find out who took our baby away from us, as in an emotional statement released today. The beloved 9-year-old is thought to have been the tragic victim of a vicious reprisal among warring gangsters in which has gone on for weeks when she was killed by a balaclava-clad gunman who stormed into her house while chasing a 35-year-old suspected rival who himself had been released early from prison. In a moving tribute, paid just hours after her heartbroken mother was discharged from hospital following treatment for gunshot wounds, the distraught family honored the much-loved youngster. The family described Olivia as a unique, chatty, nosy little girl who broke the mold when she was born. They told of how she was 9 going on 19 and loved dressing up, and like any other little girl she loved doing her makeup and nails. Liv was adored by everyone who knew her and would instantly make friends with anyone and everyone. She was often seen going up and down the street on her new bike she had just got for her birthday, the family said. Although her life was short, her personality certainly wasn't, and she lived it to the most she could and would blow people away with her wit and kindness. We as a family are heartbroken and have lost a huge part of our life. The family, who thanked the emergency services and support from people, urgently called on the public to speak up. If anyone knows anything, now is the time to speak up. It is not about being a snitch or a grass, it is about finding out who took our baby away from us. Please do the right thing, they said. Police investigating the shooting of Olivia today warned her killer, "We will not rest until we find you, and we will find you," amid claims the atrocity could have been sparked by a £1 million cocaine robbery. The statement came following a spate of gun killings which saw 3 people killed in Liverpool in a week. Detective Chief Superintendent Mark Cameen, head of investigations at Merseyside Police, said the force was pursuing a number of very positive lines of enquiry in relation to Monday's murder. He said it was unclear if the gunman had fled overseas and added, "We have had a number of names provided to us as." Addressing the killer, he said, "My message remains the same. We will not rest until we find you, and we will find you." Convicted drug dealer Joseph Nee, 35, has been named as the intended target of the shooting that also left Olivia's mother wounded. He forced his way into her family home while trying to flee a masked gunman. While Olivia lay dying in her mother's arms, Nee, who was also shot, was taken to hospital by his friends in a black Audi. Mr. Cameen said detectives were speaking to a man who was with Nee at the time of the shooting. He also said the driver of the Audi had been found and spoken to by police. Mr. Cameen said Nee, who police have never publicly named, remained in hospital for treatment and would be returned to prison for breaching his license. Olivia's mother Cheryl was now out of hospital after receiving medical treatment. Meanwhile, 2 people have been arrested following the fatal shooting of council worker Ashley Dale in Old Swan, Liverpool, on Sunday. The 28-year-old, who worked in the environmental health team at Knowsley Council, was found fatally wounded in the back garden of a house. It is believed that Ms. Dale was not the intended victim. 3 men have been arrested on suspicion of the murder of Sam Rimmer, 22, who was shot in Dingle, Liverpool, on Tuesday, August 16, in the 3rd Liverpool gun killing in less than 2 weeks. It comes amid speculation Olivia's murder was the result of a tit-for-tat gang feud, which saw Nee targeted after one of the groups robbed the other of £1 million worth of cocaine. A drug stash house in Croxdale Road West, close to the house where Olivia lived with her 2 older siblings, was raided in May 2020 by 4 men armed with an axe and a baton. Richard Coswell and Manchester-based brothers Jason and Craig Cox burst into the property and beat a father and son looking after the drugs before taking 30 kilograms of cocaine. Some of the drugs were then sold to Leon Atkinson, a criminal associate of police killer Dale Cregan, it is claimed. The robbery shocked Liverpool's underworld because the gang who owned the drugs were previously thought of as untouchable. The Liverpool underworld source told The Sun, "The guys that lost the £1 million of drugs are the top of the criminal tree in Liverpool. No one could believe anyone would try and rip them off." The cops managed to crack the case by getting into their encrypted phones, and some were jailed in May. But the Liverpool gang are still furious about it and have been going after anyone they think was involved. The word is that Nee gathered some information for them. Last night it emerged that a relative of Nee had a post on their Facebook account showing next to a caption calling police scum and adding, "Snitches get stitches." It is not clear when the post was published. Mr. Kameen today urged the public to continue sending in information, either through their website or by calling Crime Stoppers, in relation to the shooting of 9-year-old Olivia Pratt-Korbel in Liverpool. He said, "I am incredibly grateful for the sheer levels and volume of information that we have received so far. This level of engagement, this level of cooperation, and this level of working together simply must continue." He added, "I'd like to reassure our communities that are working relentlessly on each of these murder investigations." Neighbors have previously said the attack could be connected to a shooting at a children's playground yards from Olivia's home 2 weeks ago, where gunmen riding in a car shot at a man on an electric bike. One local claimed it was the same people involved in the shooting a few weeks ago in Acres Hall Park. "We know it was. It is two rival gangs chasing after each other." Former Scotland Yard detective Peter Blexley suggested a gangster serving life in jail was behind a spate of violence that led to Olivia's killing. "I have been told by a source I consider reliable that much of this violence is being orchestrated by a man who is currently in prison but unfortunately has access to mobile phones and has considerable influence from behind a cell door," he told the Mirror. Sadly, the trail of evidence for this will lead back to the illegal drugs industry. If you have a business dispute in an illegal industry, you can't go to court to have a resolution, you have to revert to violence. Meanwhile, former Chief Constable of Greater Manchester Police, Sir Peter Fay, said cracking the case would be down to a lucky piece of information from the public, adding, "Sometimes another criminal gang will see it to their advantage, in a way, to pass forward information which might lead to the disruption of another criminal gang." Last night a man who identified himself as Nee's brother answered the door at the family home. Asked if he would elaborate on Nee's injuries, he said, "It's none of your businesses," adding that the family would tell the police if they had any useful information. Nee, who also lives in Dovecote, was previously part of an organized criminal gang that were sentenced to 10 years in jail in total for a string of burglaries across northwest England and were caught after he led police on an 125 miles per hour chase across Cheshire and Merseyside. Photographs of a topless Nee in HMP Kirkham, taken in 2019 and understood to have been shared on Instagram by an accomplice, show him standing in the sun with a group of men as he bragged about life behind bars in captions which reportedly read "Butlins with bars in Costa del Kirkham." Kirkham is an open prison which houses 650 men in 24 units. Each unit has a phone and a kitchen, and prisoners have access to a gym and snooker and pool tables. In 2009, Nee was jailed for 6.5 years for serving as a trusted foot soldier in a drugs gang that helped push heroin and crack cocaine onto the streets of Liverpool. Offenders with shorter sentences are entitled to automatic release at the halfway point of their term and can be recalled if they get into trouble with the police to complete the remainder of their original sentence. Amid mounting fury over the killings, Kieran Mullen, Conservative MP for Crewe and Nantwich, told Mail Online last night, "The reality is it is a relatively small number of persistent and determined criminals responsible for making the rest of us suffer and, of course, horrendously on this occasion. If early work to get them to turn away from a life of crime doesn't work, the longer they spend in jail the better for the rest of us." Police say Nee saw a chink of light as Ms. Korbel opened the door after hearing the noise outside. Two sources are thought to have come forward and given the same name of the masked gunman to Merseyside police as of this morning. Liverpool City Council councillor Barbara Murray, for Yew Tree Ward, said that she or any of her colleagues would be willing to pass on any information anonymously. She told BBC Radio 4's Today programme, "We are more than happy to liaise and be that person and we can pass on information, but there are other agencies. It doesn't really matter. Go to someone you trust and tell them what you know. And we will protect you. No one will reveal who you are." Neighbors have now suggested that the attack may have been connected to a shooting at a children's playground just yards from Olivia's home on August 8, just 2 weeks ago, where gunmen riding a dark-colored car shot at a man on an electric bike. Nobody has been arrested for the incident. One local said, "They were just innocent people, that's what makes it 10 times worse. They were quiet, respectable people. Knowing someone has been shot just because she opened the door. It's not right." It was the same people involved in the shooting a few weeks ago in Acres Hall Park. "We know it was. It is two rival gangs chasing after each other." A woman in her 50s told The Telegraph it was the same people involved in the shooting the other week, the same car involved. "It is just tit for tat. Pointless." Olivia's death is the third fatal shooting in Liverpool in less than a week, and it comes after a council worker was killed 48 hours ago. Chillingly, Olivia was killed 15 years to the day after 11-year-old Rhys Jones was shot dead in Croxteth. Tributes have now flooded in for Olivia, who attended St. Margaret Mary's Catholic Junior School. A card with messages written in children's handwriting was left with a bunch of flowers at the scene of the killing. One message read, "I will miss you." A message from Olivia's Aunt Kim and Uncle Tony read, "Rip baby girl, can't believe what has happened, feels like a nightmare. We will miss you so much, our sassy queen. Love Auntie Kim and Uncle Tony." Another said, "To Olivia, I'm sorry you're gone." A pink star-shaped balloon was also left at the police cordon with Olivia. "Rip. We love you" written on. Speaking at a press conference earlier this week, Chief Constable Serena Kennedy appealed to members of the criminal fraternity to examine their consciences and identify Olivia's killer. She said, "They will have vital information that can help us. The killing of a 9-year-old child is an absolute tragedy and crosses every single boundary, and I would urge them to do the right thing so we can put this person behind bars." Olivia's head teacher Rebecca Wilkinson said, "Our school community is devastated at the sad loss of Olivia. We are in shock and disbelief at such tragic news. Olivia was a much-loved member of our school. She had a beautiful smile, a lovely sense of humor, and a bubbly personality. She was kind-hearted and would go out of her way to help others. She loved to perform and recently participated in the school production of The Wizard of Oz. Olivia will be missed greatly by staff and children at our school. Our thoughts and prayers are with her family and friends at this extremely sad time." Prime Minister Boris Johnson condemned the horrific senseless shooting, calling it an unimaginable tragedy and promising Merseyside police whatever they need to catch those responsible and secure justice for Olivia. Home Secretary Priti Patel said Merseyside police has her full support. Last night Olivia's cousin Rebecca promised to get justice for our little Liv in an emotional Facebook tribute. She said, "We haven't just lost our Liv, we've lost a daughter, a sister, a niece, a cousin and a granddaughter. Our little Liv who was full of life, full of sass and most definitely knew what she wanted in life. You had so much potential and a full life to lead, beautiful." She added, "We will find who did this and we will get justice for you, baby girl. Let's put this into action and get these weapons off our streets. No other child should have to lose their lives to these senseless crimes." Ms. Dale was the first woman to be murdered with a gun in Liverpool since 22-year-old mother Lucy Hargreaves was shot dead on her sofa by 3 masked men as her children, aged 9 months, 2, and 5, slept upstairs. Her murderer has never been brought to justice. There were 211 firearms offences on Merseyside from April 2021 to March 2022 compared to 140 the year before, a rise of 51%. However, the figures have been distorted by a drop in COVID, with the 227 firearms offences in 2019 to 2020 comparable to this year's figure. Longer term. In July, police said the number of reports of weapons being discharged was at a 20-year low.